Hi everyone, Jeannie here. Well, a few days ago, I got a message from a friend who lives in China. He's an expat, former colleague from LinkedIn, freedom fighter. He is someone that is very, very knowledgeable, very well read, understands what's going on in the world. So I absolutely trust his opinion on this. I waited a few days to look around the Twitterverse and social media and YouTube and Telegram, various channels to see if I can see anything close to what he is saying is filtering through. And a few bits and pieces are, but I'm quite surprised that more hasn't, and that there seems to be a lot of censorship around this issue. So I'm a bit cautious as to how much I share here. I have put it on my uncensoredwisdom.com website, the latest article there. It's something that seems to not be allowed to be talked about. Um, so, what I'm going to say is that he has told me his own experience with getting sick in China. He has talked about how it has spread throughout all the area that his city. He's talked about the warning that has been issued afterwards. And I think people need to keep an open mind that this is all that, as much as you want to think that everything is faked that you're seeing on Twitter and that it doesn't fit your worldview, maybe entertain the idea that what if it isn't being faked and what if it's something else? I know that they're running a narrative out on Twitter that and that it was because China opened up too quickly after 3 years of sitting there having, and that it was the fact that China didn't have the mRNA vaccines, and that was the reason why that the hospitals and morgues are now overwhelmed. Now, this is not what my friend has said, and it's not consistent with what we that the research that we have done. So I'm just going to share a little bit here. I do lead you to the website to have a look more at all the background information, because it is a much bigger topic than just uh, just getting sick and not. It really comes and whole plays into the whole what if something was out there that was put out there that really did cause people to get really sick and to break the hospital system, put people into a state of fear, then couldn't be possible that people would demand again more lockdowns, restrictions, rules, masks, and if things collapsed, that they could perhaps bring in rationing, digital ID, all of those sort of things. Um, and of course, when people get sick and die, this is not, regardless of whether they're, we need to have compassion. There's people out there that are immune compromised and elderly, and they're just as important. And at the same time, everyone needs to take precautions themselves, make sure you're at top of your game um, in terms of health, so that you're able to weather this storm. And I do call it a storm because, from his description of it, it is actually pretty bad, actually. And it's so bad that I'm hoping he's wrong. Okay, so what he says is this. I can't read it all to you. Some of it is not appropriate for social media and will be censored. So it is on the website. The Chinese government are labeling as Omicron, even though they know already that it's not. It is not COVID-19. I've had that twice in 2020 and gained immunity to it. This is something else that is only very few characteristics of the flu, such as fever, chills, aches, and a fluttery stomach. But unlike COVID-19, this thing attacks the brain centers and prevents the brain from entering into a REM cycle for those first few nights, and getting it was like torture, as you wake up every 5 to 10 minutes feeling absolute shit. It also attacks the digestive system and the lower tract, which results in a loss of appetite and vomiting whatever you try to eat. People also develop a cough and burning in their throat, Whenever they cough, it's super contagious. It is able to survive longer. 90% of the city I am in were infected, includes me and my family, and it's not something anybody has ever seen before. And because of Chinese medicinal practices and herbal treatments, they already knew how to treat it and minimize the death rates. Vulnerable people, however, most likely didn't survive, and when this comes to the West, which it will do soon, be sure that it will hit it much harder than in China, as we don't have the correct ways of treating it. China has controlled it very well from getting out of the country. Whatever happens in the West after this, be sure that it won't have come from China. And then he says, stay safe, people, and take care. And that, yes, and he continues and says, it hits you like a train and wipes out your energy levels for 2 weeks. Some younger people who live busy lives got it and recovered in 7 days. But then he also goes and talks about 2 doctors who were in their 20s who got it. They underestimated the severity of the illness and what it did to their bodies. I believe it depletes niacin and it depletes iron, and the virus actually weakened to their hearts because of this depletion and taking out of electrolytes. And then he also says he experienced chest pains and has had to supplement with niacin and with iron. Usually it takes an extra week for the body to fully recover, but your mood is also affected for a while longer as well. It's the same pattern reported across several families, including my mother-in-law and 7-month-old baby. All our moods are still somewhat off. And he talks about the 2 doctors actually died of heart attacks. Of course, information is scarce on the ground as to what it is, but as a consequence of this, the doctors who died of heart attacks, warnings have been issued by the most senior doctors in China for the people who have caught this virus to avoid intensive exercise for 6 months. Now that to me, that's pretty serious. I mean, it's not. I've looked everywhere to see if I can find this particular warning, and it hasn't. It hasn't turned up anywhere. And I would say that we would be in big trouble here in the West if so many people who are nutrient depleted, so many people already on medications, who are already immune compromised, who are elderly, and who are not ready for, who are not really able to self-treat themselves at home with herbal remedies and whatever supplements, vitamins, electrolytes, whatever they have on hand. It's not something that is commonly done here. And so if people, say en masse, rush off to the hospital to try and get treatment, it's not going to take much to overwhelm it all. Already we are seeing ambulances all the time. So even if it's a little bit bad, as he says, it's going to have some serious ramifications here. So the question is, what happens if it is as bad as he says it is and it gets to our shores? What will the government do? What will the people demand the government do? And I think that is the most scary prospect is, will we see a return to all the restrictions and rules? And already in the UK has decided to bring masks back. So I'd be prepared for whatever scenarios you think might play out. I'd be interested to hear people's thoughts as to what they think is the end game here. Even if you think it's all fake, all the imagery that is fake, wouldn't you actually believe that it's better that if it was real, they could actually implement more of the things that they want if something came out that was more harmful? And it's all being downplayed in the West right now, generally speaking. This has actually been going on in China for quite a few weeks now, and yet there's little on the news about it here. It's strange because in 2020, when things were filtering out, there was such a hysteria, and now it's this, oh no, it's nothing, let's not worry about it. Now, I'm not saying to live in fear. I'm not trying to spread fear, because we have learnt so much in the last 3 years on how to care for our bodies and our minds. But a large proportion of the population is governed by fear, and when they start to see the similar reactions, similar symptoms to what this guy is describing, how do you think this is going to end? So I'll leave you with that. Check out my article on uncensoredwisdom.com on China, and the background information as to where we think this has all come from. And you can leave a comment there, preferably, because I think it'd be safer than to leave it here. I will put this up on YouTube. People want to discuss what the ramifications are, and how best to prepare for all of this in terms of socially, economically, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, to be ready for whatever may come of it. Okay.